So, what do we do about this? Jacqueline told both the police and the Anti-Defamation Council. Joining us on the line now is the chairman of the Anti-Defamation Commission, Dr. Dvir Abramovich. Dr. Abramovich, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tom. Good to be with you, and please call me Dvir.
All right, Dvir. How common are these sorts of attacks?
Look, this deplorable and unacceptable attack doesn't surprise me. It seems to me that anti-Semitic verbal abuse is becoming a fact of life in Australia, and it reflects also the data that we have that over the last 12 months, anti-Semitism has increased by over 10%. I hear about the ugly face of anti-Semitism rearing its ugly head almost on a daily basis. Over the last week, we've had two incidents similar to what happened with Jacqueline.
So two others just in the last week?
Two in the last week. Australia Day, a few women were walking in the city. They saw two men in work vests, and they asked them for some directions. And one of the women heard one of the men say, "Effing Jew." A few days ago, we had an incident in Waverley Road in East Melbourne. A woman, I just spoke to her today, was called a bloody Jew at a restaurant. So this is becoming much more pervasive. It seems to me that anti-Semites and racists are feeling less inhibited, but expressing their vile racial slurs in public. And it's something that we have to denounce vigorously. It's quite concerning.
Why do you think it's getting worse?
Look, it's a good question. I think people in this atmosphere that we live today feel that they have the freedom to be racist. They think that freedom of speech means freedom to be hateful and to express their discrimination and their intolerance. We also have, of course, the influence of the internet. Think about the incident that Jacqueline described. You've got a young boy watching either his father and grandfather or somebody who's a role model for him behave in such a reprehensible way. What is the message that is being conveyed to this young person? It means that it's normal and it's okay to abuse and to victimize somebody just because they're Jewish. So we have a problem, Tom, and the Anti-Defamation Commission was set up to fight anti-Semitism and all forms of hatred about 40 years ago.
I get that, but I'm just wondering, for example, there are a number of politicians in Australia who have signed up to the anti-Israel boycott, divest movement, BDS movement, saying that we should have sanctions against Israel.
Yes.
There are, arguably, because we have a lot more Muslims in the country now who historically, to be honest, a lot of whom do not like Jewish people, there might be anti-Jewish sentiments emerging from that quarter. I'm just grasping around for ideas here. Why do you reckon it's getting worse?
Look, I wish we could sort of lay the blame at the revolving door of one particular cause. I think there's a general intolerance that we are seeing towards the Jewish community. As I said, we're seeing, and this is happening at schools. It's happening to kids as young as 10 who are being abused and are being harassed and intimidated because they're Jewish. And yes, it could be sometimes that people use their anti-Israel sentiment as a cover to express anti-Semitic views and sentiments, which would be unacceptable under any circumstances. There may be migrants coming from particular countries whereby anti-Semitism is rife, and those kinds of views migrate. But there isn't one particular reason why anti-Semitism on the rise. The internet is providing a forum and a megaphone for bigots and for racists. So, and I just want to mention one more thing is that these kinds of incidents actually intimidate the entire community. It's an attack on the decency of every Australian. And there's a lot of Jews who I've spoken to who are terrified of wearing anything which identify them as Jews. They're afraid to showcase, their Judaism and their ethnicity. And it's a real concern. It's a reminder about how important education is. And I appreciate that people like yourself are coming out and saying, look, there's no place for anti-Semitism in Australia. We have to hold these perpetrators to account, and we have to make sure that we are working together to build a much more open society.
So what do we do? What do we do though specifically with this attack? I guess you and the police can try and find out the individual responsible, but all we've got is that he was driving a dark-coloured SUV or four-wheel drive, which is not a lot to go on. Well, what do we do? Do the police take this sort of thing seriously?
The police always takes these matters seriously, especially when they're religiously motivated. And let's not forget that often verbal abuse, we've seen it in many other incidents here and abroad, becomes physical abuse. Anybody who can express those views, that Hitler had the right thing, and you're absolutely right. There is nothing more offensive or deeply hurtful than saying to a Jew, especially in Melbourne, which is the highest concentration of Holocaust survivors per capita in the world, to say to them Hitler had the right thing is one of the most hurtful and one of the most terrifying things that can be said. So, we'll work with the police. We'll see if we can get some CCTV footage. Hopefully somebody remembers or maybe took down the plate. But I think, above all, we need to make sure that those individuals realize that they're out of step with every value of what it means to be an Australian.
Yeah, I think that's true. Thank you, Dr. Abramovich, Dvir Abramovich, the Chairman of the Anti-Defamation Commission.